What's going on, guys, and welcome on into the stream. Welcome on in. Hope everyone had a great weekend, or at least I was wrapping up a great weekend here. It is Sunday night. I know I'm jumping on a bit earlier than I originally at least planned for, but we'll go for about an hour or so, and we'll see how things play out. We got a lot of talk about going into this week. Obviously, we have futures, so we always like to get on after futures have started trading. So we'll take a look at those. And here they are. Let me zoom in a touch more, so we can kind of talk a little bit about some of this stuff. What we're looking at right now across the board is not anything too noticeable. There is some that I do want to pull up, which has seen a bigger move. But across futures, they're pretty flat. They're slightly red, but realistically, under 0.25% is nothing. So especially with how futures have been kind of really not signaling much over the past couple of weeks. Anyway, so they are slightly red. That could change by the end, but we'll see how this plays out. If it gets worse, gets better. And we'll see how the market takes things this week, obviously, but it's going to be something that, at least for right now, isn't too much of a factor to look into. But what I do think is more important is oil. So take a look at this. Here we got crude oil. Of course, now I got to zoom in on this thing. But for whatever reason, oil is pulling back. So it's down about 2.7% here as we speak right now, which is kind of interesting. So it's something to think about, something to note, because this is down like $3 compared to how it closed out last week. So oil's down, market's pretty flat, barely down. This hasn't been a perfect correlation because we were kind of looking at things and it was kind of like oil was pulling in and the stocks were kind of pushing back up, and it was kind of like that inverse correlation. Last week, oil kind of rebounded slowly but surely, and stocks kind of kept pushing a little bit higher. You know, not every day was green, but day by day. If you go back to last week, we had, looks like, what was this, Monday was slightly red, and then we had 3 green days: Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday was our bigger red day, but still held the 200 SMA right here. I'm expecting us to have some significant resistance up in this 458 to 460 zone. So we're looking at this area. As we get over 455, like if that happens tomorrow or Tuesday, to be honest with you, it would be a really smart, it would not be a stupid idea to have at least a hedge if you're very long, if you're long heavy or long bias or whatever. I'd have a hedge. So I'm looking at that as like, if we get there on Monday or Tuesday, maybe grabbing puts for Friday, a very small position or nothing too big that'll kill me if we break through and keep going. Because obviously, you know, who knows? We could just keep going. But if we do get there, that's kind of the area that I'd be looking at as possibly playing some puts for like a little swing, or just some, you know, just to have as kind of a backup in case we do get a pullback and play it off that. So I think, I know that's where we double top pretty much back here in early February. I expect that to be a similar spot of some resistance there. If we kind of push up, hit that level, pull back down towards 450, and then we can see maybe a bounce from there. We'll see. That's kind of how I'm looking at things, at least as we speak right now. But so we talk about oil, talk about futures. They're pretty flat. Oil's down. Here's what's really interesting before we start diving into some stocks and questions and good stuff. Bitcoin. Let's zoom out. We talked about Bitcoin, and so here's what we're looking at. I am eyeing up this spot. Okay, now we got a long way to go. I have some crypto holdings and whatever. If we get there, I'll probably trim out of some of the stuff that I have in other accounts and whatever, personally, because this will be a spot, I think, that if we can't break over this 69 or 70K realistically, or really honestly, if we can't get over 65K on Bitcoin in a couple months, if we get up into this zone, we'll see, then this would be a very nice head and shoulders setup. Very nice, right? And I think it would make sense going into, you know, we know we're going to see a period of time where Bitcoin goes through like a 2-year span of just like, of death, not say death, but just where it just kind of goes through a span of time where it's just in a bear market for a while, right? That's a time to buy, in my opinion. But like, again, that's where I'm targeting up here for a possible head and shoulders move. I wouldn't be shorting Bitcoin specifically, but I'd be looking to risk it versus, you know, whatever highs are established up in that range. If we can get there into the summer months, we'll see. Play some of the miners on the backside. Just short shares. No options. Probably just short shares, most likely. We'll see. We'll get there. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But we're breaking out of this consolidation right now. So in the meantime, a long way to go to hit those targets before I would even be interested in shorting. But right now, it's looking pretty good. So if we can hold over 45K now, boom, this is looking like it's setting up for a run to 50K plus. And again, note this. Bitcoin being up almost 5% today. Note this. We have seen Bitcoin as a guide for growth, and it has been a guide for speculation. So when Bitcoin does well, we've seen growth stocks, we've seen tech stocks, we've seen more speculative, we've seen small caps generally do better over the past couple of weeks. So it's been kind of your risk on guide. So over the weekend, overnight, when futures or when stock markets close or whatever, Bitcoin's a decent guide to watch to see at least how it's reacting. Doesn't mean it's the perfect guide, but it could be a really good guide. So let's see how it plays out here. But it's looking really good. I think we can see a move up towards, I'd say up towards 50 to 53,000 would be a realistic, first shot. And then we'll see how we react there, and possibly up towards 60K next. That could happen in a relatively short period of time, or that could happen in a couple weeks, couple months. It seems like, as of late, Bitcoin's been slow. But look at some of these moves. Obviously, in the past, year or 2 years, we hit a move from 42K up to 60K in a matter of like a month. So, I mean, yeah, it could get there very, very fast. Okay, that's it. Futures have been flat for a while. Yeah, they kind of have it, and it's kind of what it is. And even if we do go down like a quarter to even 0.5% overnight, that's nothing that can't get quickly reversed come morning, come news flow once we hit Monday morning, and whatever, right? Depending upon what's going on across the economy, across the world, and all that stuff. So that's that. Bitcoin for sure. Crypto breaking resistance. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Good evening from DC. You can take a look at Etsy and Roblox. Yes, we can do that in a second. Bull trap. I mean, it's funny because I feel like going back to the markets, a lot of people have been saying the same thing, and we'll see how it plays out. I think a lot of people have gotten a lot more comfortable, for sure, I would say, over the past couple of days after last week. But I think there's still a lot of people in that boat of like, hey, no way this is going to last. We're going down. So we'll see. So a lot of puts, generally speaking, a lot of puts being bought across the market now. Yeah, okay, understandable that we hit a time where we hit the most put buying ever. Yeah, more people are playing options, and there's more people trading the markets, I guess, these days. So it makes sense. But something to think about. Another thing to think about too is that across the world, what about the idea of this, of a flow of foreign money into U.S. markets, into U.S. stocks, into equities? It's an idea. Think about people are scared about other countries and their dealings and how with Ukraine, Russia, and stuff. If that continues to drag on, it could be a safe haven. We'll see. It's just an idea. It's a theory that people are tossing out that I've been at least thinking about. But it's an idea. Happy Sunday from New York City. I heard it's pretty chilly. I was getting some snow in New York or something like that. It's hit like 90 yesterday. Here 85 today. Beautiful here in Austin, Texas. What happens with Nile tomorrow? Got in at 69 cents. Then we can take a look at all these things. Let's just start going through. Okay, so let's take a look at Etsy, Roblox. Etsy, I believe, right? These are some stocks that took some big hits over the past, sell-offs, right? The past couple months. Yeah, look at Etsy, man. November was the time. Again, Etsy behaving very similar to a lot of small caps. It's speculative. A lot of speculative stocks, same thing. You go back to mid-November, that was the top, or that was if it wasn't the top, it was the peak of, or it was the clear sentiment shift. Okay, Etsy, same thing. We topped out at that point, and the sentiment shifted in a big way come mid-November, and it has never really regained back. But what we have seen here is now what you want to kind of see. Etsy building higher lows. So Etsy hit this 109, then it hit a higher low here at 117. If we can hold above this 117, I like that, right? So we kind of have almost an inverse head and shoulders. We'll see how it plays out, but you kind of have, here's your left shoulder, almost. Or kind of your left shoulder here. Here's your inverse head, and then here's your right shoulder. So if we stay above this right shoulder now, that holds, and that inverse head and shoulders plays out. If we don't, then boom, that's not going to be valid anymore. So I would say a risk if you're going to get in now. Obviously shares on the stock like this, it could do a lot of damage, right? Short, long. I mean, this thing is moving a lot, and you don't have to play options and worry about time decay. I mean, hey. You can play heavier size, risk yourself, 10% downside to those lows, or, and targets the upside up here towards like 180 or so could be a good target. Was an area. Yeah, it's an area I had drawn out in the chart from a couple months back, but 36% gain versus a 10% or 12% loss. It's a pretty good risk reward. And so you can play it out like that instead of having to worry about options and trying to make 1,000,000%, but then you're, going on a lower size. Play it with heavier size. If you're bullish in the markets and you want to put this bottom gets put in, then boom, so these are some stocks that I think, and same with Roblox. We'll go look at Roblox here in a second. I'm going to leave that there on the chart. So if I come back to it next week or whatever, it's still there. And we'll see if it stays valid, that inverse head and shoulders possibility. Yes, I mean, you possibly could be seeing the same thing with Roblox. A little bit more of a pullback down, maybe towards like the mid to lower 40s on Roblox would be really nice. You kind of have what looks to be your same setup right there, right? Little pullback there. Then you have the lows we're putting here at $36. And now if we can kind of hold this general area in the next week or two, then boom, that could be setting up for that inverse head and shoulders. And your risk level, as of right now, your risk level, I wouldn't want to hold it below, 36. Maybe you can give it to be $40, if you're, we don't really have an established, high or low here yet. So we don't really know for sure, but, resistance up here towards 54. And then up from there, I mean, this is another stock that, again, if you did the same thing or even just played it from where we're at right now, from where it's at right now to the lows, you're going to risk 25% by maybe a gap fill up here. Let me target that gap fill. So you risk 25% to the lows. Obviously, that's, it's a lot. Here's your gap fill, right? If you risk 25%, what's your gap fill gain? Top of that gap fill would be about 40%. So it's still a better risk reward, right, in terms of that play. And it could go for more. But that's, again, you're seeing, the possibility on just some larger cap tech names, some more speculative names that have that potential to be kind of behave like small caps in a sense. So, playing the small caps, there's other stuff out there that you might even have a better handle on and feel more comfortable with some of these other names, even a Facebook out there too. Let us see. Nile. Yes. Nile. Here's the thing with Nile, right? So this is a crypto play. So I talked about how I hate I'm not a big fan. I don't want to say I hate. Not a big fan of the CEO, right? From just my understanding and just because I follow this company, I kind of had a feel for what he's been doing and whatever. And, over the years, not just this past, couple weeks and whatever, they have a ton of crypto miners. So that Bitcoin going up, I wouldn't want to short this thing. No way, no how. But if Bitcoin gets weak or kind of establishes more of a consolidation, then I think this thing over $1, he's going to be unloading. The guy who, the CEO has been buying a ton of shares, and he is down bad. He's down so bad on those shares. Let's take a look at Open Insider. Just something to think about. We'll see how it plays out. But my speculation is, though, he gets a chance to take some profits, he's going to do it. And that's just how because just from my history following him and this company, because it was DPW. I made had plenty of great trades to the long side on DPW over the last couple of years. But it's just, something that right now, with Bitcoin could be good, but make sure you have your risk in line. I wouldn't be surprised for, massive insider sells, offerings, all that good stuff, because at the end of the day, they're here to pad their own pockets. Okay. At the end of the day, whatever they say, they're here to pad their own pockets. So just know that when you're getting the play, then that will give you an edge, because if people, to be honest, with a lot of small caps, people get caught up in the story. And many times, it's so easy to get caught up. And many times, or I don't want to say many times, sometimes there could be a really good feel-good story, a situation where the company actually is progressing and is trying to grow and trying to actually make a difference and make a move in their sector and their whatever. And deep down, and they're planning on long-term growth and whatever. But many times it's easy to get caught up in that story, caught up in the hype. You're buying the stock up 100% off the lows, and it's like, well, you unfortunately you bought it up that high, and now they did an offering, and it may not be until next year that it gets back up to that level, or it may never come back to that level after reverse stock splits and whatever, more dilution. It may never ever come back to your average. So that's how it's very easy to become a bag holder if you get caught up inside the company too much without having risk set. So again, 88 cents, 91 cents, the CEO or whatever, this guy, the owner or whatever, $1 once he bought a ton, man. He hasn't been buying that much. Look at his position, right? Almost 9 million shares. He had 7.7 million shares here back in December. Okay, now he's got 9 million. So his overall position hasn't increased, to be honest, that much in terms of shares. Okay, since he was been buying under one. A lot of these heavy buys came in the 240s, 192, 191, some heavy buys. 2.6 million shares bought at 192. So he is down bad on those shares. So unless he's got unlimited cash, which I don't know how much money he's got, unless he wants to keep buying this thing, which doesn't seem like he does, because each of these buys over the past couple of months, not each, but they have all kind of, see how it kind of went from, buying in the ones, buying 100,000 shares, 170,000 shares, 200,000 shares in the ones, to now he's buying 60K, 30K, he bought 100K shares, 91 cents. The amount of buys are becoming significantly smaller. He's running out of cash. It's quite obvious, at least in my view. So just make sure he'll probably trim something out over one, and then he's got some heavier sells. He'll probably want to be taking profits up this thing if it does get a run up over 2, 3, if it ever gets there. We'll see, but I can imagine that'll be where he'll be looking to dump. Just be careful there. Okay, I would say risk wise on this play. Here's your risk. You're right along the 50 SMA. Your risk is you don't want to see this thing dropping below this low right here, which is at 68 cents. So I'm going to say that 68 cent is my spot. It's a decent risk from where we are right now, but I want to see those higher lows under 68 cents. You have a gap fill back down towards about 60 cents, and that could be a better entry down there towards 60 or lower, in my opinion. I also want to cover the cannabis names because this is a sector that we need to talk about, and a lot of people are getting very caught up in the hype here. Nothing against it, and I say we can see big runs, but let's just talk about the reality in just a second. Let's see. QTEK. Let's see. They were going to rip shorts. It would be funny. Fed will be raising rates 7 times this year. If we got a 0.75 basis point hike, I'd be surprised. To be honest, I could see a 50 basis point hike. I could see 7. I could see 7 quarter-point hikes. But there's been a lot of not hype, but there's been some expectations now in June, July timeframe. I think Bank of America came out and said, hey, we're now expecting a 50 basis point hike in June, July. So realistically, let's see how that plays out ultimately. And each meeting will have its own hype and will have its own volatility going into each meeting. But for right now, it's kind of it's kind of cooled off a bit in terms of that. I think in terms of that fear, the bonds. If you take a look at the 10-year Treasury, let's take a look at 10-year. Where is the 10-year right now? If we go back here, go to CNBC. I want to pull up bonds. The 10-year was up over like 250 briefly last week. If I pull it back up, yeah, look at how far this thing has run up. The 10-year pushed up to like hitting 250, like right there. Yeah, it got above briefly, but it's sitting right there at just around 250 right now. So we'll see how this plays out into this week and how this plays. But this has made a pretty substantial move. It definitely has. Okay, back QTK. Let's take a look. And I'm not to be honest, nothing against a lot of the crypto stuff. I'm just not really too focused on it, to be honest, right now. Let it do its thing. That's not something that I'm super focused on unless we see a real trend in terms of that could be a sector to watch, I guess. In terms of actual cryptos, it's like Ethereum. I have some Solana. I have some Bitcoin, and it's pretty straightforward in terms of my take there. And I haven't dove too deep. I'm not playing small cap coins. I'm not doing that stuff. I'd rather just focus on other stuff, at least for me. But everyone has their own way they want to play things. This has been building nice higher lows here, so let's see how this goes. But again, what we've been seeing, right, is it hasn't broken the prior day low over the past week. So where's the prior day low? Here's your play right here, 332 or so. If we fall below 332, which was Friday's low, then that trend cracks. And if not, if we hold that 332 or so, I'd say 330, 325 roughly. If we hold that, this could keep on curling. So I kind of like that chart. I'm not a huge fan of playing it up here, but if this chart keeps curling in these lows, it's playing the trend. So if you wake up and you're like, I need a trade, I don't know what to do. This is an idea. If it holds this level, that could be a really good continuation move because the trend has been continuing to put at higher lows. And the volume, look at the volume. Volume's been pushing up little by little, right? We traded still not that much, only 600,000 shares on Friday. So that's still not that much volume. Realistically, this could trade a lot more volume. I'm seeing the free float is at 3.2 million, at least Webull's telling me. So that's a super low float stock. This is, ideally you'd want to see the float at least being traded once or twice, for that to be some more substantial volume. We haven't even gotten close to trading the entire float. So, it still doesn't have much volume on it as of right now. Do you like ChargePoint? DCFC. Yeah, let's take a look. DCFC. Interesting. You know what? Let's take a look. This is actually built a nice bottom right here. ChargePoint slaps their name on this bad boy. Let's take a look. Yeah, so versus this 685 or 680 would have been really, really good over the past couple weeks. Right now, though, it's made a nice little run. It's been green for how many days in a row? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days in a row now. It's been green. And up towards 10, the SPAC price type of thing could be a little resistance type of setup here, in which we kind of got stuffed right here. So let's see if it can break this level. And if it can break it, then you want to see it holding over this 10, over 1025, and then for a possible spike. I don't know, though. These SPACs, I'd love to see them make some good runs. I really would. But the problem is that realistically is that the market hasn't been, it's starting to heat up for them, but it hasn't been super hot. So my only issue is that is we would need to see probably ChargePoint doing very well, EVs doing very well, charging plays heating up a lot. Then this is a good one to have on your list. But in the meantime, if this could very well get rejected here and kind of cool back off, and you can get possibly a better entry as long as volume and eyes aren't picking this thing up. So let's see how it works, how it sets up next week. I do kind of I like the charging plays. I definitely do, and especially if EVs are staying relatively hot this coming week. Not against it, right? A couple of 50 basis point hikes. I would have to agree with that. And that the reality in my view of that is that unfortunately for the Fed, it's a little too, it's going to probably be too late, but it's like, when are we going to finally know that, or what's going to happen? Is there going to be a catalyst, or at what point do we keep raising, little by little to when we kind of break things and then all of a sudden, the backside or whatever. So that's kind of how I see it. I think it's kind of inevitable in a sense that we're going to see a bigger downside. But it's like how long, ideally, like I've been saying, right? Like we've been talking about, ideally we hit all-time highs, make a kind of a parabolic move, trap more people bullish, and then we have a bigger bear market. So again, if we go all-time highs again on the S&P, here's SPY really quick, which we aren't that far off. We're really not. And based on how last week finished, we could hit that, in 2 weeks. We are like 6% from all-time highs, a little bit less than 6% from all-time highs. And we're from this year's lows, we're like 9.5% from this year's lows. So realistically, I want to see a 500 plus SPY, and then it's like, okay, in terms of swings, there will be minimal swings long. If I'm playing a swing to the long side, it will be either an overnight option play continuation that was a day trade and I took off most profits and I'm leaving one little contract or whatever to ride for the next day, or it will be small caps based off of sectors, which will also keep those small, but the swings that I want to be in are short. I wouldn't want to be in very many long swings if we go 500 plus on SPY. That's at least how I've been seeing it and how I want to play it. Because I think at that point on 500 plus on SPY, you're going to have even just an all-time high break. You're going to have more euphoria, people going, oh my gosh, and people saying, you know what, Fed aside, we're just going to go up. And then that's when, you hit the summer market, people get a little too maybe, happy or too excited about things. It's super easy. They're on the beach. They're making money on the beach, trading options because everything just goes up. And then that's where, I would want to be eyeing up a couple stocks, a couple names, building out some short positions that I think that, will be valid for the next, 6 to 12 months time frame, something like that, willing to hold them for a bit. Don't want to pay too much in margin or not margin, but too much in hard to borrow fees or interest right on that. And eyeing up a few names there, whether it's a small cap, mid cap, or even large cap stocks, ideally. Because you saw how things went this past year. So getting ready to be putting in, trimming or at least shorting into the euphoria is how I want to play it. Not like massive, but that's how I would be looking to position things on the swing side if we get there. That's my plan, but we still got a long way to go. Why only Canadian cannabis stocks got the big pump? Yes. That's exactly because, again, when it comes down to this stuff here, MSOS is literally the United States Cannabis ETF. A ton of, it got some volume, but it still didn't get that much volume relative. I would have expected this thing to get, way more volume on Thursday and Friday. It traded 3 million shares. I mean, come on, pull 5 to 10 million shares, and then we're talking. But here's the thing. So with this whole cannabis situation, let's walk through. This ETF owns a lot of OTC U.S. cannabis companies. Okay, so you'd think a bill or whatever that's going through the House, it's going to get voted on the House and then eventually the Senate, ideally, and then potentially signed by the president, right? You would think that this would surge U.S. cannabis stocks, but it's not. Because any cannabis news, where does the money flow? It flows into the stocks that are not on the OTC and that are more widely available, and the money and the volume goes to stocks like SNDL, Sundial Growers. It goes to stocks like Tilray. So here's SNDL. I'm going to go back to my cannabis list really quick, my weed list. Let's pull it up. There's definitely more on this list that I haven't updated recently, but I'll pull up a few. We got, SNDL. I don't think you can short this thing on, you can't short it on Webull. You can get puts. They have options, but they're going to be super expensive. To be honest, it's not worth it. From what I was looking at last week, it's not worth it. Unless you can really kind of nail a move one day. Maybe you make a few bucks, but it's not worth it. I guess you could play it, but you got to be kind of quick. Here's the thing. So again, We're going to this pass through the House. Ideally, it can pass through the House. There'll be some debates next week. Then in April, the intention is that it's going to go into the Senate. The reality is, from everything I have read and researched this past weekend, the reality is it's not going to pass in the Senate. Again, it's the same political games. There's a lot of other stuff underlying in these bills that you might think to yourself, okay, legalize cannabis, and then we can, all the states can make, or, they can make more tax money. Well, as it is right now, the way things work is that these cannabis companies, they can't write off business expenses to lower their tax bill. So they're actually paying a lot in taxes, because if they pull in whatever, let's say they pull in $1 million in sales, right? Or they pull in $1 million, they're going to get taxed on that $1 million, right? They can't say, well, I paid for all this. I bought this equipment. I bought this, cool, stuff, lighting for my, shop or whatever. Like, no, they're getting taxed. They're not able to write things off against their tax bill, essentially. So they're actually getting taxed quite high, which I'm not sure how long that will realistically last, and how real that will be. Like, eventually that will probably change. But again, these are, U.S. You would think the U.S. companies would do better, but the reality is, it's just pump. It's an opportunity for volume to come in to pump these stocks, and the money flows where it's easier to flow to. And if these are stocks that you can trade on Robinhood, Webull, not OTC, they're on the U.S. exchanges, and you can trade them, and they're a cannabis stock, this is where people will flow to. That's it. So what I would like, now this may not work out this way, but what I would love is if we get a continuation Monday, Tuesday, right? This goes in the House. There's no delays, and it actually passes in the House. We'll have to see if the news flow and all that stuff comes out. It goes through, it passes. Awesome. We get some more spikes. These things spike up. SNDL over $1. I would love it. I don't know if we're going to. I would love it, though. SNDL over 1. Here's Tilray. Look, we zoom this guy in. Tilray up towards 10 plus. I would love. If we go to ACB, Aurora Cannabis, up over 5, ideally on ACB. That would be a spot that I would be interested in potentially adding some shares short on ACB and Tilray. SNDL, unfortunately, I don't know if you can. It's going to be difficult. You can play options, but I probably would stay away from that. And then CGC, I guess you could play as well. Yeah, CGC, Cannabis Growth. Yes, so I'm kind of liking the short idea on those, because then I think the reality will set in that, hey, it's now got to go through the Senate, and it's the same song and dance. Now, it's still a good sign to see some of these stocks moving, and we could get a bigger run in these stocks. Definitely could. But that's my guess as to how things are going to go, in terms of the reality will set in this week that, hey, this is actually realistically, it's not going to be able to pass through it. And it's not, we keep getting these bills. We keep getting, trying to go somewhere, but then again, you guys know how the government works, and because this is a bill that maybe it seems like, why wouldn't you want the extra tax revenue, right? State by state or whatever, as an entire country. It sounds simple, but there's a lot of other stuff in these bills that somebody over here doesn't like, somebody over here loves, and they can never come together and say, hey, we can agree, let's pass this damn thing. They can't do it. They can't do it. So that's been the reality of cannabis and weed. That's how it's been. So that's my anticipation for those. So I would like, if they don't pop off Monday, Tuesday, it's the risk reward on the short side for a few cents here, for $1 or for a few bucks here and there maybe. But I would like a bigger move up to be a better risk reward short, in my opinion. All right, let's see. MTCR, good play for me, and there's a big gap to fill. Let's take a look at MTCR. Boom. Oh yeah, that's a bottom play right there. I mean, if I've ever seen one, right, that's a beautiful bottom play. This would be nuts. I mean, if you want to go back to like the crazy market back in 2020, 2021, I mean, we were getting stocks that were, we're sitting down here and that were filling these two gaps up to like 350. I mean, that would be nuts. But yeah, risk reward right now, to be honest, like these higher lows that I'm kind of putting in. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more and I get a better view of this thing. Of course. All right, let me zoom in a touch more to just make us a better visual on this guy. So I would say I wouldn't want to hold this thing below this low right here, 43 cents or so, which is still a decent way down. Maybe the 50 SMA, this like 50 cent, yeah, maybe 50 cents could be your shelf right now. Would like to hold that 50 SMA, hold 50 cent psychological area of resistance. For a possible move, I'd say up. I mean, you can get up towards $1. I wouldn't be surprised. I would like to know how much this is a biotech play. 21 million float or something like that. 14 million market cap. Like, I mean, what? So, how much cash they got? What catalysts are upcoming? They may not need to have that much cash, but if they got a catalyst upcoming, and they drop a PR next week or this week or whatever, this could go to 1+ easily, like that. So, backing your way in, though, the key to playing these biotechs, the key to playing these bottom penny stocks, especially bios, the key is understanding what catalysts are coming so you have a feel for the time frame and how much cash, what's their runway, how long until they are going to have pressure to raise capital, to raise funds. Now, even if they have pressure to raise capital, raise funds, and do an offering, they're probably not going to do an offering just like out of the blue right now. They could, but they're probably not going to do that. So they're going to ideally want to at least try to put out a press release, try to pump the stock a little bit, get some more eyes on it, and then do the offering. So if you know that they're strapped for cash and they pump it, to get out, or even possibly flip short, make a few bucks on the upside, maybe put in a few shares on the short side and flip short because you have a feel for, hey, they're probably going to raise. They may not, but obviously have some sort of risk parameter in line. Hey, if we go over the highs that we just saw last week, then I'm going to get out on the short side. But that's kind of the biggest key to playing biotechs. They will go up. They will move with the market. So if the market is weak, and we've been seeing a weakness for growth, for tech, for speculative stocks, they're going to be the worst performing stocks. But if things start to kind of feel a little bit better and firm up, these are some of the crazier movers. So you can have some really crazy moves off the lows. I like that setup. I do. Yeah, Bitcoin we talked about a few minutes ago. I think we have a shot to 50 to 53,000 next if we can hold over 45, 46 now. IRNT, I can pop back to Bitcoin in a second here. IRNT is kind of like just chilling down here towards these lows. Would like to see this thing not fall below 350. That was the low that we saw a few weeks ago, about a week or two ago. But yeah, you kind of see how some of these things kind of push up and then eventually the music stops and it kind of sits. But yeah, there's some good volume on this thing. It's still, bigger picture on this. If it holds 350, you're looking decent for a move back to 5, 350 to 5 has been your range as of late. Under 350, this thing could fall off a bit more. So be careful on trying to hold this thing, too long. But that's not a bad risk to $3.50, $3.50. Yeah, quickly, let me just jump back to Bitcoin really quick and just pull it up. I'm going to go back to recently viewed BTC. For those who are jumping in now, we're breaking out of this consolidation right here. I don't know why the candle disappeared. But I want to see it holding over 45K now for a bigger move up. But I'd be targeting up towards 53,000 is my spot. I'd say 50K is a psychological resistance, so 50 to 53. And then ideally, if we get up into this zone, 60K, we'll see how it reacts. But that's what I'd be looking at, possibly going, for a short swing idea on some miners. But we'll see. That's, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, if we get there. So. I think weed stocks will be sell the news. I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. But it doesn't mean you can't make money on the upside if there's ride the hype and stuff. So I don't want to be of course I don't want to be the bearer of bad news to those people who are just seeing these stocks and oh, here we go. But realistically, let's understand what's going on, right? These are Canadian companies. We're talking about a U.S. bill. Doesn't it impacts sentiment for sure for a lot of stuff, and doesn't mean that Canada would be necessarily. But realistically, when a lot of the U.S. OTCs go and they uplist to major exchanges and we get a federal legalization, it's game over for a lot of those Canadian companies. Realistically, those stocks will probably, in the long run, just be worthless. They'll be penny stocks. That's what they'll be. A lot of them, not every, but a lot of them. Select few, obviously, different story, but a lot of them. Whereas the U.S. ones will ultimately, in that situation, potentially do a lot better for a short period of time when a lot more money starts flowing at them. BBIG right now, here's our spot. So we're sitting on this shelf right here. I don't want to see it dropping below 280. 280 is my spot. So a decent risk reward from where it's at right now, but just be careful. Below 280, this is going to probably pull in. So I'm actually going to put an alert right here. BBIG, I'm going to put an alert if it falls under 285, just to alert me to say, hey, check it out. this week, and maybe I'll possibly take a swing or a trade off that, or it could be a short. It could be a short trade under that 280 for a little quick fall back to like 270 or 265, even 250. It could be a spot to watch. So let's see how that holds up. But that's your spot. Under 280, you're coming down, maybe down towards 260, 250s. We'll see how it goes. But it's been holding on this little shelf the past week. So let's see. You check out ESOA. Let's take a look. I'm excited. I'm feeling pretty good about, generally speaking. So this is a recent uplist or something like that. Is that what it is? Let's take a look. Let me pull up some info. ESOA. I feel like I saw this one this past week. So what do? They have about to begin trading on the NASDAQ. So they uplisted to the NASDAQ. Is that what they did? I guess they uplisted to the NASDAQ. Yeah, this could be interesting. This could get a little pump. So let's see if it can kind of hold around like $3 psychological area. I mean, there's not much short history here, right? So who knows? But if it can kind of I'd kind of watch this thing for just, let's see how it reacts the next like day or two. If it holds like this 325 it kind of held, this could be setting up for a little popper up back up to 4+ again for a little pump possibly. So yeah, just obviously this can also just fade right off and just slowly fade for a long time. But let's see how it handles at 325, which was the lows of Friday. $3 will be psychological, and see how it goes. I haven't followed them very, very close, but just chart wise. All right, can you trade on TSX? I don't believe you can trade the U.S. names on Webull there. I believe you can. You can do so on. I don't know. I'm not very familiar, so I don't know. I forget where. I know you can trade a lot of the tickers in MSOS at least. I know you can get on. I believe TD Ameritrade from last I recall, but I'm not super familiar. Quick swing, CHPT or VLTA. Let's take a look. CHPT. Look at charge point, man. Look at this. Just like, this is a lot of EVs and even chargers. Look at this. They just kind of like have been like in this slow uptrend consolidation. That's like a really weird look. We haven't really seen that. Like, look at how weird that is. It's just slow uptrending consolidation for the past like week. So this over 19, yeah, over $20 on CHPT. We can run a 25 very, very fast. I like that chart. As long as it holds 1750. So this is a good swing. I think on even just shares. I'm thinking even just shares. Like here's your risk. Like from where it's at right now, risk it down to 1750, 5% risk, target 25. Boom. Simple. Quite simple trade right there. Like you can even put a stop loss on that, let it play. I wouldn't put a stop loss. I put an alert. And if it falls below 1750, watch it. And if we close below there, get out. But over $20 is going to, this could take a couple weeks or months to play out, but that's, I'd like that setup, honestly. And then VLTA, ooh, it's another bottomed out play. Ooh, I kind of like this chart right here. It's just sitting, it's building higher lows. 360 is your low. It's not a terrible risk from where we're at right now. I would say anything could happen here, obviously, but I wouldn't want to see this thing below like 375, and then that would be kind of a good risk zone on this. And this could have a bigger move up. So that's a nice chart. VLTA. I'm gonna write that one down just to have it on the list. I like that. It's you can't necessarily compare the two because you have one. This is a recent SPAC, I guess, and then you have a charge point. But if the EVs keep going and chargers keep going, yeah, I mean this could be good. VLTA. Let's take a look. I'm just gonna write this one down to maybe dive into this week, or just to have monitor if this EV or charging heats up. EV charger. All right, that's good. NEP sleeper weed play with huge. Yeah, it did. The problem is that it's kind of like, it's funny because look at how hard it got rocked on Friday. Like it got a lot of volume, but something weird's going on. It had a massive bearish engulfing with a lot of weed, profit taking on some of those names. So I honestly don't know. That was just kind of wonky. I played it for a very short play. on Thursday, where I said, okay, I grabbed it here under 29 cents, and I put some sells in the low 30s and just took the profits on those. And one of them hit at 4 a.m. and that was it the next day. But yeah, there's something doesn't look right here. If weed picks up, yeah, it could be a good risk reward, but this is just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't like that chart. It just does not look good. You would want to see this thing having it should have had a green day on Friday. It should have had a green day, and then it should have had, it's got good volume. It should have had a green day of finishing over. I would have wanted to see it finishing over 30 cents, but it didn't. It did like completely the opposite. It popped up early and just got rocked. Usually the uplisting pumps, quick pumps followed by death. Yeah, so just be careful on what was that name we were talking about a few minutes ago? ESOA. If that thing, if you have a risk in mind, so $3.25, $3 is your spot, and then if it can't hold that, I'd get out. Bag holding net for a year, not waiting for pump to sell out. They'd have that's why they did some dilution recently, bring too much cash. Yeah, I don't know. That's not. It's just not, something's not right here. I could see a delist coming, honestly. Can be this. Yeah, that's a risk on that one. Buy OTC on Fidelity. Okay, so you can buy OTC on Fidelity. I know you can buy OTC on Charles Schwab. You can do it on TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, Fidelity. I'm pretty sure you can do it on E-Trade, if I'm not mistaken. Thoughts on HEPA? Interesting. HEPA is an old friend. HEPA is a good old friend. I think I had a couple nice trades. Oh, look at that. On HEPA in the past. Some nice swings. Yeah, look at HEPA. Let's take a look here. This is setting up. We got some lows put in here around 85, 90 cents. Higher low here at $1. So obviously $1 is your spot. Little resistance here at this 127. You got to break this 127 for a move up towards the 150. So let's see how it handles this spot. If it does not, I say pullbacks versus $1 are your friend. Just be careful though. Make sure that they're a 96 million market cap. Make sure you know how much cash they got and catalysts if they've mentioned it in recent earnings reports. So if if they're low on cash, that's just make sure you're aware of that and you have a shorter time frame on that of okay, any pop sell something so that you're not going to get caught in an offering with too much size, ideally. But it doesn't look too bad. I mean, bigger picture, yeah, it's got a lot of room to move if it wants to get going. But it's an old biotech pharmaceutical play that's been a good friend to me. At least I've heard it a couple times in years past, and it did well. Alrighty, what's going on? What is going on? HEPA, good Sunday evening from Melbourne Beach. Man, it's gonna be nice. I'm hoping. I'm hoping weather keeps up here. It's been beautiful this weekend. Just sunny days, 85, 90 degrees past couple days here in Austin, which is great. Got my pizza and bud ready for the stream. Awesome. Appreciate that, Paul. What is going on? CHBT is a king and holds most chargers worldwide and is likely to be the first to make a profit. Yeah, I mean, I think if we, again, back to that chart, it depends, right? It depends on, how EVs do, but it's generally kind of EVs, chargers, right? They're right behind them, or EVs and then chargers right behind them. So, CHPT, I mean, if you want to play this versus this recent area of, and this is a good play, honestly. And we talk about how, okay, you can play options, you can play shares, and, certain large caps right now are presenting some potential volatility and upside and downside that shares are fine. You don't have to worry about options and worry about getting caught up in time decay. Literally, if you want to play the chart on this strictly, $20 will be key break, but 1750 is your spot. If we hold 1750, what is that? That was our low back here it was October. That was our low back here late December. And that was our high that we got rejected at a couple weeks ago. So that area of 1750 has been a strong area. Support and now resistance. We broke above it. So now we're above. That'll be support. So I think your risk, especially on this stock now, I mean, your risk is not that much. From where we are, you're going to risk yourself 5 to 6% downside on just shares versus possible upside. Let me fix this guy. Upside here targets over 20, I'd say 25, 36%. That's a really good risk reward in my opinion. And this is what type of play where, like, I don't know, maybe, you feel comfortable tossing in, 15, 20% of your portfolio in, which is a lot. I understand. But let's just say, if you're a swing-based approach, trader or whatever, that's not unrealistic. For me, I don't want to go over 15% really on new positions. Stuff I already have, I'm kind of managing, but anything new, I'm not going to be more than 15% of my portfolio in. So it's something that I would feel pretty comfortable playing heavier size. And okay, if I take 5% loss, fine, sure. But I'm looking for 35% gains as a target, and then just riding it out and playing it from there. So we'll see. But I like this chart a lot. CHPT. I'm actually gonna write that one down again too, because it's been one I've always looked at and always played, or I've had on the list in the past. It might finally be time. CHPT. All right. What is going on? Vlta. Yeah, I think we just looked at Vlta a few minutes ago. Pull it up really quick. Vlta. What was the ticker symbol? Was it Volt? I forget what it was. VLTA. Sorry. VLTA. Vlta. Yeah, that chart is looking really good. Versus the 360 zone. Yeah, it's a small cap. So, okay, understand that, yes, your downside here is probably going to be more than 5% to the lows. Yeah, you're going to risk yourself like 10% to the lows. But a possible target up towards $5.50, dare we say $6, or even this low back here from October is up towards $6.50. It's a really nice upside possible trade, and it's, a lower float stock, a smaller cap stock. It could be, a faster mover. So, those are two EV plays that I think are decent plays to look into, or to possibly look to position. Keep the risk in line though. Don't be stupid right now. Ultimately, I've done it too, but let's make sure we learn from mistakes and move on from that. But don't be stupid on some of these names and just keep adding, right? Play them for the trade, and that's it. Unless it's a long-term investment that you're willing to hold this stock for the next 5 years, unless that's your approach, then do not just add. If it's a trade with momentum, with sectors, with volume, with small caps, with the market heating up a little bit, with us getting some more sector rotation, with energy names heating up, if that's there, then make sure that aligns with your risk and have a risk in line for the chart. Because it's easy to get caught up in downturns, and everyone gets caught up in this stuff, but it's the same thing. You're going to have times where the market's tougher, it's choppier, it's this or it's that. And that may have been the past year for many people, but it's the same thing. Even if your win rate has gone down substantially, right? A bad win rate can be okay with really sound risk management, right? Obviously, that will come back. And if you use technicals, you use sectors, you use all this stuff to put you on the top half of 50-50, right? On the right side of 50-50. So you're like, okay, if I'm right 51% of the time, but I got some killer risk management where I'm risking, $1 downside for a $2 gain, or for a $1.50 gain, or for even a $1 gain up, but I know I'm right more than half the time over the course of weeks, months, and years. That stacks up. I'm not so worried about the day-to-day, week-to-week, even sometimes month-to-month. I'm worried about the bigger picture on that. And obviously you adapt to the market conditions and stuff, and the faster you can adapt, the better you can do. But it's a longer-term game in this on that approach, and it's the same thing with even day trades or whatever. It's the same thing on anything. If you can stack up small wins each week, again, we talk about 1% every day. It's kind of like something that aligns with me a lot, of like the 1% approach mindset every single day. If you can make 1% on your account every single day, do the math. You're gonna have a killer returns each year, killer. But not every day you're gonna make 1%. Not every day is that gonna happen. But if you can stack up 1% every day, and at the end of the week your account's up 2%, your account's up 3%. That's killer, right? It's the same thing. You don't have to swing for the fences day one. From someone who started my Webull account with like $250, and just built it up from there, playing small cap swings, and just, obviously the longevity, the longer term of my account, of my history of playing the small cap swings has been great. My win rate is like 60 something plus. Yeah. Of the past year, it's definitely, probably below, I would say the past year, it's below 50%, but overall it's pretty good. And then that's where risk management comes into play. You go through downturns, you go through, really hot times, and ultimately right now, having the experience from last year's market and the year before, if we ever see someone heat up that fast again, okay, you can push the pedal a little bit harder. And then as it starts happening, and as we start seeing certain signs, for example, now looking back, if we ever get a market where I don't see any penny stocks under $1 anymore, and it's like, that's telling me stop swinging, minimize my overnight risk, minimize any leverage or whatever it is. If you are using margin or whatever, minimize that stuff and get ready for the backside. Start eyeing up some backside plays, or just wait. Be patient and wait. But that's all you know. That's what you learn from, taking the L's and the experiences and watching markets evolve and different things shape out, which, no one saw, I guess maybe you could have with the Fed, and just, the printer and stuff, I guess makes sense. But no one really saw how hot that was going to be. And then no one really, the past, year was pretty difficult for a lot of people to trade that. Obviously, day traders, different story. But if you're looking at swings or as an investor, it's been kind of tough to kind of see where things were going to line up. So it's been a great learning experience for everyone who's stuck with it. What you think about Nexi? It's had a good build over the past week. Shot up on Friday afternoon. Had a nice pullback. Wouldn't be surprised to see the same thing in pre-market. Let's take a look. NEXI. Look at that big move off the lows. 172 was the low. Building nice higher lows right now. Look at this. It held the prior day's high as its low. Let's go to the 30-minute chart. Yeah, this is a spot right here. Here's a spot that I'd be looking at. We don't have too much history or volume or to play off of, but this 325, 327 is kind of a spot to watch. It's kind of a line in the sand. But it's continuing to build in higher lows. This thing is just looking pretty good, honestly. Here's the bigger picture chart. Where can we look at? I mean, look at this downturn. Massive downturn. Could we get a touch of the 200 up here towards 930? Dare we get up there? That'd be nuts. I think $5 will be your next spot to watch. Let's just watch this thing and make sure you don't. Ideally, you want to see higher lows. So, I wouldn't want to see it. Ideally, I wouldn't want to see it under $4. I mean, we hit $4 in the afternoon on Friday, and it held that. So, draw a line at $4, and if it cracks 4, is it worth just adding and hoping, or is it worth playing the $4 zone as your support and playing it off of that for a bigger move up? You be the judge, but I think that if I'm going to play it, I look to see it hold 4 and continue the upside. $5 would be a pretty good psychological area of resistance. Could see some strong selling at that point, and we can kind of cross that bridge if we get there this week. But been building higher lows, really, really nice off the bottom. So some of these names, I mean, that make these nice moves, these pullbacks as they establish higher lows and establish new supports, that's a really good entry point in my opinion on some of these guys. Alrighty, let's start diving on through. ALLG sells DRTS, FRGE, recent SPAC pumps. That semi play is still going into next week. Yeah, they happen. I did notice that last week. We did see some of those plays moving. What's up from San Antonio? Look at that, awesome. Let's see. What are some recent SPACs yet to run? That's a good. I haven't been following them, to be honest with you. Too close. I haven't been following the SPACs and all that stuff, but those have been hot. So it's if you were looking at that sector and seeing that stuff move, names that have yet to been run, that's where you want to be, right? Favorite penny stock is ABML. Let's pull it up. ABML, American Battery Technology. This has been kind of building support here at like 90 cents. 50 SMA is right there as well. This has got some strong resistance here right now at like right around this 110. So let's see it break over 110, and then we get a bigger possible move coming on this thing. I kind of like that chart look right here. If we get over 110, that could be a nice move to like 125 or 130 really quick on ABML. Does Mullen have a good chance to run? Okay. I do want to mention some of these guys. We talked about SNDL a little bit. Mullen, here's Mullen's chart. I mean, bigger picture, start there. Am I a massive fan of this company in the long term? Not really. I mean, let's just be honest. Maybe they could do well. I don't know. Am I a huge fan? No. Is it an EV? Yes. Does that matter? Yes. Because if EVs run and they start pushing again, this will probably catch some sympathy momentum, I would say. I think it will catch a lot of sympathy momentum because it's got a lot of volume. Next is that it was down 21% on Friday, right? It pulled back. It cracked this 280. So we had this spot right here. We can zoom in a second. It cracked it. Now, bigger picture on this sell-off. I was kind of, to be honest, with how this thing has worked and played out, I was kind of expecting, or I still may be expecting, a move towards 5 or 6 on a real big squeeze out. Over 6 would be that blow-off move, is what I would kind of like to see before, for this thing to really play out. I'm not in long or short right now. But that being said, this thing it's still got some range. Don't get me wrong. It's still got some range, and just looking at this chart, that could bring some more eyes and more attention, more volume. Is that how things should work? Just because the chart has range, should it go up? No, but it could play into people's kind of, thought process. Okay, so it cracked this 280. That was our low we saw 2 days in a row, and then we held it, and then eventually cracked it. We finally cracked it. Boom, we put a big pullback. That was a really big downside. So I'm looking at here down towards 209, 215, or even 225 is what we held up last week. These will be areas of support. So I don't want to see it under 2. Under 2, we're going back to like 150 potentially. Under $2, I expect to hold. So if this thing comes down this week, gets down towards 2, I may potentially start picking something up with a risk, of $2 being my stop. Under 2, a 1 hour close or a daily close under level. That's kind of the spot. So let's see how it plays into tomorrow. I could see a bounce back up to 275, possibly. If we get up to that level and gets rejected, let it come back down, and maybe in the lower 2s could be really a good risk reward, risking $2. But that's kind of how I see that. I don't know if I don't want to say that it's over. I don't think this one has had its final laugh just yet. Just so be cautious on the short side. I'm not a huge fan of shorting it unless you're going to play it off of those breakdowns or specific intraday day trades. Just blindly shorting it, saying it's going back to $1. Maybe it does in a few months. But who knows how long it will take. And are you willing to hold through and whatever, pay the hard to borrow rates and whatever, which could stack up on a play like this? I mean, it's up to you, right? Ultimately. So that's how I'd see it. The lower 2s will be my spot to risk it off of. 225, then 215, 210 could be some three ad zones to look at. Tomorrow, a good idea for a trade to buy calls on the BITOET, Bitcoin ETF. I don't know. Let's take a look at how this is setting up. It's been looking pretty good. Oh, yeah, interesting. This has been, here's your resistance right here, like 28, 29. So you're right up at that spot right here. Really, actually, yeah, right there at 28.75. Over that level could be a little, more of an explosive move to the upside. Obviously, it looks very similar to Bitcoin, so just be careful and watch Bitcoin. Bitcoin's your guide. Not a perfect guide in this situation, but it's a decent guide, I would say, for this. So just be careful, but you're right at resistance. Bitcoin breaking through, you're probably going to get a gap up on this, and I would want to see this thing. Here's how I would want to see it. There's probably individual stocks that you can probably play that are that could be better instead of like Coinbase or something like that. But which we'll look at that in a second. But if we get over 20, if we open up tomorrow morning and pop over 29, a pullback versus the high from here, this 28.75 zone, pulls back to that spot. That could be a good bounce zone for a continuation move. If we're going to get that continuation move, watch Bitcoin. If Bitcoin looks weak, then probably not. But that could be a good trade. If we get over that possible breakout, pull back, hold that prior high as support, and then go. So that's the idea. USWS, good last week. It's still have room. Let's take a look. USWS hit that 140. Only thing with this is they're related to oil, right? So here's the thing. Just be careful with that because oil, let's see. Go back here. Let me go to oil really quick. What's oil at? Oil was looking pretty nasty when we opened up the stream, which I want to come back to futures here in a second. Oil. Oh, sorry. Dow Jones, man. I was looking at oil. I love how this site is so well, I guess I have the ad blocker, so that doesn't help me. It's down 3.5% oil futures. So just be careful because some of these oil names will have some decent downside and they will have some weight on them when oil is not doing too hot. So just be careful of that. Watch those. USWS will probably have have some ties to some of those names. So just be careful on that. But hey, if it comes down towards $1, that could be a much better risk reward spot. Thoughts on Yemen attack on. You would think, right? And oil popped a little bit on Friday, but again, we just mentioned, but with a lot of these oil names, you got to watch oil. They have been working very, very, very nicely with oil, but a lot of them that are up huge, like for example, HUSA. I mean, this is going to this could crack down below 5 tomorrow. We'll see, but this could crack. They have some significant pressure. Any pop, they have not been able to sustain. At least on HUSA is kind of like the guide. It was one of the bigger movers a few weeks ago. It has not been able to sustain a pop. Eventually, this consolidation paired up with oil pulling back, if that continues this week, we'll see. this is going to lead to a break below 5, and these can come down very fast, very quick. And these are stocks you don't want to be bag holding because they will kill you. They're quick movers. You want to be in, you want to be out, sell the pump, sell the pop, and that's it. Or there's some good downside to take advantage of, but depending upon the broker, you want to be careful. They're going to be expensive to borrow and stuff. So just be careful on that side. That's my thoughts on the oil stuff. I'm not too big into the cryptos outside of holding, some Bitcoin, Ethereum, and even I think I have Solana long. That's it. That's all I got on that stuff. I haven't followed the smaller cap coins and whatever, or even whatever mid cap. I don't follow a lot of other stuff when it comes to that right now. Personally, LITM. Let's see. We talked about this one a couple weeks ago, at least a couple weeks ago, maybe last week. I forget. I don't know when. I put an alert on this thing and it broke. We had an alert right here over this 780 and it broke. It went straight to $9. Killer. But now it's falling back to the downside. So let's just see. It broke that spot. Now I'd want to see it holding like the 50 SMA down here towards 650. So let's see how it comes down. But it got above this resistance and now it's not holding that anymore. So that 780 is your resistance now on this thing. It could be headed down for a bit. So let's just let it play out. But it could come down towards the 50 SMA. 650 could be a better dip buy spot. Not too much chart history on this guy either. Sunworks. Oh yeah, look at some of these names. They got a good run with oil and stuff, kind of pushing up, and some of these energy names, these alternative energy names, got renewables and whatever. But look at this thing, 250 support. So 250 is your spot, but you got a pretty good risk reward right now. From where it's sitting at to 250, 7%. The top of these little candles right here up towards 325 is a 22% move up, and it could go to maybe more than that. So that's a good risk reward if you ask me on Sunworks. I mean, come on, look at this chart too. You got some good volume on this thing. Pushed up, came back, holding this support. Let's see how it handles it. Volume has been elevated, which is good. I'm gonna write this one down as well. You kind of can see a trend on the stuff we've been talking about, or at least a lot of the names I'm kind of liking right now, or a lot of the the renewables, the EVs, the chargers are kind of honestly setting up. FSR, I'm not sure if I mentioned this one a couple days ago too. I mentioned it as I want to see it hold $12. Ideally, I cut out my position on this thing, but it's still looking decent. If it holds 12, I like it. On FSR, I'm gonna draw one more line there at 12. If it holds 12, I like it. If not, then let it play out. We can reassess. But I think a break over 13, this is gonna make a nice move. And they got their production starts this year, so I expect possibly this could be a really good a really good stock, and maybe that's what I'll do. To toss into a different, it would be something I'd put in like an IRA or put in a different portfolio, and buy 100 shares, and just sell covered calls every week. Sell covered calls. That's it. It's a good risk reward where it's at right now. Even maybe sell a put down here towards like $8 or $9, even $10 could be a good put spot to sell. Sell a $10 put. But yeah, this is looking like it's a really good play for the covered call strategy for a nice move in the coming weeks. I think it will get it. Obviously, it depends on the market, but I think it will get a nice pump type of run into its production, and then similar to Lucid, it'll have the hype up into the production, and then similar to Lucid and Rivian and all that stuff. And once cars hit the road and the reality sets in on the valuation and the revenue, and okay, did people like the cars? How does the delivery stack up? Then we get to more reality, and then maybe the music stops if we're trading up over a crazy price. But I think I honestly like this thing. So if you're thinking about maybe picking something up in sell covered calls, something to hold for a few months, a swing for a few months, obviously this thing goes over $20. I would want to be out. I wouldn't want to necessarily hold this thing, too high. If you get a move from 12 to $20, if it gets up that high, that's great. That's a killer trade, and you're selling covered calls along the way, you're killing it. So eventually along that road, I wouldn't be too mad if I was in this thing and I was selling covered calls along the way, which is a strategy that I used, a year ago or whatever on this thing. And then it gets up to that 19, 20, and I have a $20 covered call that I sold for 1 week, and I'm like, yeah, maybe it hits, maybe it gets taken out, and they get taken out, it is what it is, and maybe it goes to 23, whatever it does. I don't care. It was a great trade in my book. So that's how I would kind of play that. I like that play as well. So we'll see. If market holds up, might be some good opportunity for small caps. I'm telling you, we are seeing some good action across those things. So let's take a look. I'm going to check over on futures really quick. How are they setting up? Okay, so they're coming down a little bit more, but still not that bad. They're down just under 0.25% across the board pretty much. So, okay, whatever. It is what it is. Oil's down a lot more in terms of futures. And we'll see. This is going to change going into tomorrow morning and how bad this stuff looks. But small caps, I'm telling you, are looking a lot better. Again, I want to pull up IWM because this is kind of key to look at. IWM is sitting right there. So pullback maybe, but IWM could burst through this 210, 215 in a hurry. And if IWM starts pushing through 215, any pullback on that, I would like to be looking at playing some more small caps, getting heavier in small caps and stuff. I have a good amount. I'm positioned, at least the way I see it, pretty nicely across my small caps. I'm fine with where I'm at right now. But what it might mean will be we start seeing some more rotation. Stuff starts to make some good moves. We're taking more profits, and we kind of have more of an active portfolio rather than more of like I'm positioned for the next few months and letting things play out. And we have some more active stuff to play off, which is fun. It will be a lot of fun. All right, let's dive through a couple more things. Most cryptos. Yeah, from what I've been seeing, a lot of crypto charts on Twitter and whatever that I've just kind of been popping through. They look pretty good. They look like they're setting up. And so let's see if we get continuation here. I'm going to go back to Bitcoin. Back to Bitcoin really quick. If we get continuation here, let's see. 47K now. I mean, this is looking really nice. Alrighty. PGRU, a recent SPAC, just 6 days of trading. Okay, let's take a look. PGRU. PGRU. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this thing has gotten killed, right? So this is something that when it starts to kind of hold a certain spot, it might not be a terrible idea to snag something, right? Bitcoin over 47K. Yep. We already short oil and drip. Let's take like here. Yeah, let's take a look at drip really quick on drip. So drip is something that we were talking about a couple weeks ago too, right? Hey, if oil starts pushing back up, maybe it makes sense. Why is we will not letting me look at it? GRIP, whatever. It's not letting. Okay, it's not letting me pull it up. All right, let me go to our friends over at FinViz. Here it is. Yeah, I mean, this thing is at hit 227 right here. This could make a nice move back to 3, even more. Possibly. We'll see how tomorrow goes with oil. But yeah, if it stays under 110 and starts pushing back down towards $100, yeah. If gold's up, look for HYMC. I said that right. Okay, HYMC popped in the after hours on Friday. So look at this thing. 115 support. It's kind of holding in this spot I liked. But we got a little bit of a pop here in the after hours. Look at this thing popping off. Really crazy move off the 130 to 160. This may get a pop or a continuation into tomorrow. We'll see. But something to watch too. This had a couple pumps. I would not want to be buying this thing up big. So you want to be buying it when it starts to chill out, let it nice and cool, and then that's your time to buy. So right now, this thing could be popping. It could go, and continuation, right? Could go. But just be careful. I'm going to write this one down, to be honest, because I kind of like a possible backside play tomorrow morning, especially if gold is down and oil and gold have been kind of going or trading in tandem. So let's see if oil's down and we'll see how this one opens up. But I could be good short for like a couple cents, depending on how it plays out. All right, 40% allocation. Nice. That's killing it. That is killing it, man. All right, so that's I'm going to wrap things up here. We are looking across the board. Futures are just down about 0.25% across the board. S&P, NASDAQ, Dow, and small caps down a little bit less, but nothing too bad. I mean, realistically, this can change by tomorrow morning, so we'll see how it plays out. We finished quite strong, too, on the S&P. So if you go back to the S&P, we finished up towards the high of the day. So, I mean, at the end of the day, is it really that big a deal? Not in my view. We'll see how it plays out. But I'm thinking this 250, 248, 450, 448 could be areas of short-term support. If not, down towards 442 and then even 435 would be next spots to watch. But I would want to see a move up quickly on the S&P towards that 460 area. And if we pop there tomorrow or Tuesday, I would look at getting puts. And if we get a flush day, take profits on the puts. That's going to be, I think, an area to watch of decently strong resistance on the S&P. So that's what I'm watching on SPY. But we're like 6% away from all-time highs. We're right there. We're right there. So it's not that far off. VXX, something's been going on here because it had these random pumps. It's sitting on this spot right here. Yes. So this could be an interesting play with volatility, but something's going on with this thing because it kind of halted up one day randomly a couple days ago. So I don't really know the whole story behind this guy. I haven't really been following too close what's going on here. But if we do see a pullback in the markets, this could pop. So this is what you're looking at. It's just looking at volatility. I honestly, for me, I would be looking at I would prefer UVXY. So look at UVXY getting just killed. If we pop up, you can play UVXY calls or just grab some UVXY shares on a nice move up in the markets to kind of hedge yourself for some backside. I would probably just play SPY puts. Everyone's got their own plan.